Right, so first up from this era is my favourite, the Lamborghini Miura. Now the Miura was the rockstar supercar of the 1970s, which is exactly what Ferruccio Lamborghini set out to do to overshadow Ferrari. It's a mid-engine 4-litre V12 giving out more than 385 brake horsepower and a top speed of 186 miles per hour. Only 148 examples were made and have had legendary owners over the years, such as Frank Sinatra, Miles Davis, Elton John, Rod Stewart, and also the Shah of Iran. The Miura was built between 1968 and 1971, and you could have had one of these back in the day for $21,000. Next is another one of my favourite supercars from the 1970s, the Lamborghini Countach. Lamborghini had a really good run with the Countach and produced the V12 supercar between 1974 and 1990. It has a sexy wedge-shaped design which would go on to set the standard of what a supercar was meant to look like and as inspiration in the modern supercars that we know and love today. The Countach was made by the same design team that created the Miura. It was wide, it was low and pushed the passenger compartment forward to accommodate the larger V12 engine. The word Countach is an exclamation of astonishment in the local Italian language, generally used by men on seeing an extremely beautiful woman. An original Countach back in the 1970s would have cost you around $52,000. Here is the rare 1973 Lancia Stratos HF captured in the wild by MDK Supercars in Monaco. The shape of the Stratos came from the future but was still pure 1970s. The Lancia Stratos HF, widely and more simply known as the Lancia Stratos, is a sports car and rally car made by Italian car manufacturer Lancia. The HF stands for high fidelity and it was a very... Next up is the Maserati Camzin. This bizarre creation came out while Citroën was still in charge of Lamborghini, albeit only for a very short period of time, and was produced between 1974 and 1982, with only 420 ever been made. This Italian V8 produced 320 brake horsepower and had such unique styling for the 70s with its transparent tail, floating taillights and its prominent wedge shape. Get this, it originally sold in the 1970s for an RRP price of $17,000. It is the magnificent Ferrari 512 BB. The 365 GT4 BB was updated as the BB512 in 1976. The 512 Ferrari Berlinetta Boxer, or BB for short, came with a 5-litre V12 engine, hence the 512. The engine was positioned behind the driver and had an exquisitely proportioned body, first bulging over the front wheels before tapering down to a point featuring those big orange indicators. The BB512 just oozes sex appeal. It could do 0 to 60 in just 4.9 seconds, 355 brake horsepower and a top speed of 188 miles per hour. The original RRP for this in the 1970s was $75,000. W8. Now the W8 began life when a businessman thought it would be a good idea to combine American horsepower and the latest aerospace technology, and he wanted to create a supercar to render the European market, like Lamborghini and Ferrari, obsolete. It was powered by a mid-engine twin-turbo Chevrolet V8. On the outside it had carbon fibre over an aluminium frame, and in the cockpit, if you were sat there, you'd literally think you're inside a jet fighter. It was doomed from the outset. It was complicated, it was expensive, and investors accused the owner of misappropriating funds, and production ground to halt just after 22 cars had been built. But that takes absolutely nothing away because of its futuristic looks of this car, the Vectra W8, becoming one of the poster cars of the 1980s. Oh look, a Porsche! I bet that's what you were saying anyway, but no it's not. Well, it kind of is. It's a rough CTR. A bit like Hennessy Venom did with the Lotus Exige, the Rough CTR is based on a Porsche 911. It made its first appearance in April 1987 at the world's fastest cars contest at the American car magazine Road and Track, where it was designated the fastest production car in the world. It did 0 to 60 miles per hour in 4 seconds, which was astonishing for the 1980s. The twin-turbo Rough CTR was a limited production, high-performance sports car produced by Rough Automobile of Germany. It featured an enlarged and highly tuned version of Porsche's 3.2-litre flat 6-cylinder engine, lightened body panels, an integrated roll cage to add chassis stiffness, upgraded suspension and braking systems, and to finish it off, a custom-designed transmission. So if the Porsche 911 wasn't sexy enough already, Rough Automobile took the 911 and made it even sexier. TS. Now the Di Tommaso Pantera was a supercar from the 1970s, but the GTS was a pin-up from the 1980s. The Pantera, which is Italian for Panther, was a mid-engine sports car produced by the Di Tommaso Car Company of Italy from 1971 to 1991. So the Pantera GTS found its height of fame in the 1980s. The Pantera was the automaker's most popular model, with the last one being delivered to a customer in 1992. It had over 7,000 units in total during a 20-year run. The 1974 Di Tommaso Pantera GTS was the fastest production car in its day. It was a real Ferrari and Lamborghini killer, but obviously today the event store will crush it. But this is definitely a forgotten supercar of the 1980s. The Lotus Esprit, which was an excellent car in its own right, but found notoriety in the James Bond movie For Your Eyes Only in 1981. The Lotus Esprit was a 1980s British supercar with lots of power and a good top speed for the 1980s of 150 miles per hour from its turbocharged engine, also giving out 210 brake horsepower and 200 foot-pound of torque.